In your amicus submissions in relation to the tickle and giggle matter, is it correct that you treated pregnancy protections in Section 7 as available to trans women?
No, Senator. Clearly, trans women cannot become pregnant. The discussion was around technical meaning of the pregnancy and potential pregnancy and meanings within the Sex Discrimination Act.
Okay, so you weren't advocating for pregnancy protections for trans women on the basis that they can't become pregnant?
The words relate to potential pregnancy that is included within pregnancy, and
yes.
That was the discussion.
So you're not advocating that trans women can potentially become pregnant, though, are you?
No, Senator.
Yeah, because they're biological males, so you can't obviously become pregnant. So in terms, did you ask the federal court to extend pregnancy protections to transgender women?
Senator, not from my recollection.
No, so I'm asking, I was wondering to understand the status of your submission.
No, in the submissions
no.
we talked about the meaning of pregnancy and potential pregnancy and how that may apply
so
to
can I ask,
gender
yeah,
identity.
how do you see that applying in the Act currently to trans women?
Trans women, if someone is who applies for a job, for example,
yes.
and it is a trans woman and she may be asked whether or not she intends to have children, and if she replies, yes, I do, and then doesn't get the job because that employer doesn't want to employ women who may be of childbearing age, then she may have been subjected to unlawful discrimination on the basis of potential pregnancy.
I'm very confused. A biological male can't become pregnant.
But the grounds of pregnancy includes potential pregnancy as well as pregnancy.
But if they can't become pregnant, how can you then become potentially pregnant?
It's about the unlawful treatment by the employer. If someone is treated unfairly on the basis of pregnancy or potential pregnancy, then that is unlawful discrimination on the basis of pregnancy.
So if a bloke came in and they said, are you going to have children, which is the same question really, and he said, oh, yeah, maybe, are you saying that he could also claim that ground?
If he didn't receive the job because...
But they can't get pregnant?
No, not a man who is seeking a position, then it's not going to apply to a man.
Well, they're both biological men. It makes no sense. A biological man, you stated before, a biological man can't get pregnant, am I correct? Because if I'm not, I've got to go back to school. I seriously do, because I missed that lesson in biology. I went to a convent school, the nuns may not have told me about it. But you said a biological man can't get pregnant.
That's correct, Senator. But someone who is a trans woman may be assumed to be pregnant or to be able to be pregnant.
So what stops a man putting on a dress, walking in and claiming the protections? He's now a woman. You've admitted that.
That would be up to a court to decide whether or not it was discrimination on the basis
so it's the and with all due respect, yep, it is the absurdity of the law yet again, which shows, again, the law does need to be changed because, for the record, biological men, doesn't matter what way you cut it, you cannot get pregnant. And quite frankly, it is an insult to women who actually are discriminated on because they want to have children when they biologically can get pregnant. But the good news is what we're proving today is the law needs to be changed.
I think she might have a point. Look, the other week I defended trans women, proper trans women, men who transition and get the full chop. But the Sex Discrimination Commissioner said it herself. Clearly, trans women cannot become pregnant. But an employer can be sued for a potential pregnancy. They've made this more complicated. If the Sex Discrimination Commissioner had said, well, we don't know, that the employer knows that this is a trans woman. So the employer may just be deciding this based on the fact that a woman is presenting to that employer. They've asked about pregnancy, family, all that kind of stuff, and made a decision on that basis. But the Sex Discrimination Commissioner hasn't said that. Additionally, let's use traditional stereotypes. A traditional wife may want to be the stay-at-home mum. And so a trans woman may be taking on that role if her and her partner decide to have kids. But then I would argue it's the same for a man in that position, which the Sex Discrimination Commissioner said, no, if it's a man, absolutely can't have discrimination against them on that basis. So it is about the pregnancy, not about the stay-at-home parent. The Sex Discrimination Commissioner has made that clear in her statement in Senate estimates. But when you're talking about a potential pregnancy, of course, someone who was born a biological male and has transitioned to female just can't, we don't have the technology. They cannot fall pregnant. It is a fact. So the argument falls down, and you can see the Sex Discrimination Commissioner trying to get herself around in knots, tie herself in knots, trying to get around this issue. Michaelia Cash is calling it out. And there are major problems, because when the person who's supposed to be overseeing this kind of stuff, the Sex Discrimination Commissioner, has to sit there and think about, well, can a man do it, this and that, and it doesn't make sense. Again, if you want to make the law about the stay-at-home parent, then you've got something. But otherwise, it does need to be narrowed to a biological woman, because only a biological woman can get pregnant. This is not that hard, but that admission just seems a step too far. Let me know what you think. YouTube.com/@McKnight tonight. I played that whole clip because I didn't want to edit it. I wanted you to see the whole thing, the whole exchange. When you've got the Sex Discrimination Commissioner saying clearly trans women cannot become pregnant, but then defends potential pregnancy. There is no potential pregnancy. Let me know your thoughts. The best place to watch McKnight Tonight is on YouTube. Help us monetize the show by going to youtube.com/@McKnight Tonight. And you can always become a paid member. That gives you exclusive live streams and early access to videos. Just go to youtube.com/@McKnight Tonight.